family, wasn't she?
I think so, yeah.
I think so. Not the original Gandhi.
Not original Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
No.
I was.
Hi.
Did you all watch the moving Levaya at Shalavim? Very sad.
Anybody there?
We're here.
We're here.
Yeah, but the boss is not here. He'll be here.
Thomas Carra.
I was late.
Sit down.
I know we heard he was just parked up behind me, share. We were just there.
Hi, Ernst.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
What?
I say hello, everybody.
How are you, Ernst?
Hello. This camera's off kilter. I don't know why. Yeah. What's the matter? I don't know. You have him? I have some hot water. Mint, I don't want to see. I drank enough. Where is it that we started?
Repairing hay.
I'll do it now.
Okay, so this is for you.
Hi.
You can use this one.
I'll do it from 8 to 9. From now. I'll do you the baby. I'll do it now. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. How are you?
Hashem, thank God.
We're going to try to learn Perek Hey and Vav today. And we're going to finish up a little bit of Dalid that I wanted to finish up. Second. Yeah, okay. Let me just put this here. Okay. So on Pasuk Dal, Perek Tes, excuse me, Perek Dalad Pasuk Yud Tes, V'chalaso Eshes Pinchas Hara Lalas. We said that the wife. Last week we learned about the death of Chofni of Pinchas when the Plishtim conquered Shiloh, destroyed Shiloh, and took the Aron prisoner. And the parak ends with the wife of Pinchas when she heard Vatishma Tashmoa Halakacha Aron Elokim, that the Aron Elokim was taken, Umeis Chamia v'Isha, and the death of her father-in-law Eli and her husband. Vatichra v'teled, I guess the emotion caused her to have labor, to go into labor. So in Bereishis Rabbah, It says, Shlosha hein shniskashu b'shas leidosan. There were 3 women in Jewish history that had problems during childbirth. Umesu kishein chayos. And they died. Elohein Rachel, right? Giving birth to Binyamin. Eshes Pinchas, this woman, the wife of Pinchas. Umichal Bashol, the wife of David HaMelech, the daughter of Shaul HaMelech, Michal, who we will get to Mirz Hashem. Rachel dichsi vatelid Rachel vatakash belidito. Rachel had trouble during her labor. Eshes Pinchas dichsi vatichra vatelid uve'etz mosa. The next pasuk, it says uche'etz musa, and she spoke to the attendees that were taking care of her. They told her, "Don't worry, you're going to have a son. You're having a son." And she called the son Ikavod. Back to the Breishis Rabbah. Michal dichsiv ule Michal Bashaul lohaya lavlad ad yom mosa. Or Rav Yehuda Rav Simon ad yom mosa lohaya la b'yom mosayala. That pasuk teaches us that she had a child on the day of her death, and therefore she died during childbirth. Says the Musar Nevi'im. It says in Masechta Shabbos Lamed Aleph, and those of us who daven Kabbalah Shabbos know we say this every Friday night. Al sholish averis noshim mesos b'shas lidoson. There are 3 sins for which women die during childbirth. Al shehenan zeiris benida b'chala uvahadlaka saner. They're not careful in the mitzvah of nida, in the mitzvah of taking challah when she bakes bread, and hadlaka sneir Shabbos. The yesh lishol al zeh v'elu hanoshim hamenuyos kan hayutzid konios. These women, Rachel, Eshes Pinchas, and Michal, are tzidkonios. It seems the Chazal seems to imply that women who are going to die in childbirth, they must have one of these sins. But Chas v'sholom to say that one of these ladies sinned, these averas. Ira Lomar, she'aza misa b'shas aleda he's simin laveras. If you mamish die in childbirth, zer kashen mesos ad shenolad avlad. That means they die and then the child is born. That's what happens to women who have those sins. Aval kishenolad lahem avlad, ein bahen simin laveros. But if the child is born, we know Rachel was alive when she said, "But give him the name Ben-Oni," right? But Yaakov called him Binyamin. And this woman also called the child Ikavod. So we know they were alive for some period of time after the birth of the child. So says the Musar Aval B'Kishon, Ladlam Avlad ein b'zeh simin laveris, ki Havlad mare al simin tov. The birth of the child is a simin tov for these women. Uv'zeh yuvan lanu, ma shenemar kan uve'etz mosa. That's why we understand the pasuk here, where at the time of her death, it makes a point that the vatidaberna nitzavos aleh al tiri ki ben yoladis, v'chein berachel, vatomer lam yaledet al tiri ki gamzelach bein. The midwives told Rachel, "Oh, don't worry, you have a son." V'nira de lekach anu lehen shelo yiru. Zeu mishum shaya mokum lomar de lekach ein misos mishum averes chamur sheyesh biyodem. Lekach balonachim muson shein lam lachush lezeh sharei nolad lehen. The fact that they were informed that they have a child is already giving them nachas ruach to these women, that they should know that their death is not coming because of this avera, because of any avera in their hands.
That would explain the words al tir'i. Otherwise, what does it help her?
Right. Don't be fearful. Don't be fearful that what's happening to you is because of averas. Absolutely. In both of those cases. Here as well, in Pasuk Chaf, it says again, al tiri. So Suzanne's point where the diuk from Al Tiri, don't be afraid. What's the pshat of being afraid? Okay. I think that was an interesting chazal, because when we say these psukim, when we say these chazals on Shabbos, Erev Shabbos, it's good to know this diuk, that that the women who give birth, it's not mamish the averet that are connected to it. Now, you notice that Eishes Pinchas, the pasuk says that she was bothered first because the Aron was taken, then the death of her father-in-law, then the death of her husband. Say the Meforshim, Ki Chami haya Kohen Gadol v'Navi. Father-in-law was Eli, the Kohen Gadol and the Navi. And Isha, her husband, Pinchas, haya yoser roy l'shamish b'kunik gdolim mechafni. Remember, a few weeks ago, we learned that there was a difference between Chofni and Pinchas. Chofni was the real evildoer. Pinchas was caught up because he didn't protest what his brother was doing. But it's not like he was, so he was more Roy. Kiloya Rakam Chofni. And say the Meforshim, Lachein niskaima hakuhuna gdola mizer Pinchas ad malchus Shlomo. We'll see. At the time of Shlomo HaMelech, the Kohen Gadol is going to be changed to a different family. Remember, a few weeks ago, we learned that one of Eli's punishments was that the Kohen Gadol is going to be removed from him. And eventually that happens at the time of Shlomo HaMelech. But the sons of Pinchas, this Pinchas who just died, remain the Kohen Gadol until Shlomo HaMelech. And Lefichach higdim hakasav b'peronos chofni koydem Pinchas. And that's why it also says, when it talked about the death of the sons, it mentioned Chofni before Pinchas. Now, in first, Eishes Pinchas said, when naming the son Ikavod, in Pasuk Chaf Aleph, Vatikrala nara Ikavod lemor, Gala Kavod miYisrael, El halikach aron elokim belchami avisha. There's a lack of kavod because the Aron was taken and the death of the Eli and my husband. Then another pasuk, Vatomer galak kavod miYisrael, kil ninkach aron elokim, doesn't mention anything about the father-in-law and the son-in-law. Says the Musar Navi, why initially galak? She says galak kavod miYisrael, and she mentions all three things. Only because of Aron Elokim. Nira Lomar, Shizeu mipnei shebe'emet b'makom she'etzor gadol ha'klal, ein makom lidog b'dover atzar prati shel adam. When there's a terrible thing that happens to Klal Yisrael, that overshadows everything, even a personal loss. Ki adam ha'chashuv tzarich levatel et atzmo tamid la'klal. Important people, particularly leaders, have to mevatel themselves to the klal. Aval ein adam mesugal lavo lidei hakara hazot. That's a pretty high madrega to reach. Ki machrei yishuv das, you have to have calm thought. Vizbonenus meruba, you got to think about it. That means at first blick, you're not going to be able to control your emotions, and you know that there's something bad for Klal Yisrael that occurred. But you're not going to be able to forget your personal tsar, the loss of your father-in-law, the loss of your husband. The important yid, leader in Klal Yisrael, we understand his psychology is such that it's going to be very difficult for him to wipe out any kind of personal thoughts. And we see this very clearly by Eishes Pinchas. She does mention the taking of the Aron, but includes gamachmas tzara prati, her personal loss. After a period of thought, that's why there's a next pasuk. So we see some psychology going on in terms of Chazal understanding, human emotion and how we think about these things. Okay, let's begin. Perek Hey. Plishtim lakhu et Aron Elokim. So the Plishtim took the Aron Elokim captive. You notice many times the Aron is called the Aron Abris. How come it's not referred to as Aron Abris here? Because the Aron Abris has to do with the bris between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. So when the Plishtim take this in its hands of the Plishtim, the Meforshim comment that that's why it's not called Aron Abris here. And you notice it doesn't say anything about the Luchos. So that goes into what we learned last week, that's good according to Mandama, that says that Shaul took the Luchos from the Aron, and therefore the Luchos weren't taken captive. But again, most of the Meforshim hold that the Luchos were still in the Aron. Otherwise, it would not have the power to do all the mischief that it did when it was in the hands of the Plishtim. Vayiviu me'even ha'ezer Ashdod, and they took it from where they got it until Ashdod. Vayichu Plishtim et Aron Elokim, vayaviu oto Beit Dagon. They brought it to a house of Avodah Zarah, where the Avodah Zarah was Dagon. Vayatzigu oto etzel Dagon. Says Rashi, Tselem asu, it's an idol, bidmut dag. Hayasham Eliel al Shem Tzrat v'Tzorat Dagon mitiburo lamata yatzras dag. From the navel to the bottom, it looked like a fish, and from above, it looked like a human being, like a mermaid. The Radak understands this as a mermaid, but I don't know if it's female, but a merman, half fish, half man. Remember, the Plishtim were seafarers. The Plishtim made their living on the water, which is therefore not unreasonable that they had this kind of avodah zarah.
Isn't Nautilus just like that? The Greek one, not Nautilus, I think. What's his name? Nautilus, isn't he? Half man, half fish.
Can't say that I'm expert on the Greek.
I think there is one. Like
There
that.
was a horse. There was one where there was a horse, and the human being was above, and the bottom was like a horse.
Yeah, but I think there was a sea one also like that. Okay, whatever. Okay.
So that's Dagon. The next morning, this idol had crashed in front of the Aron, Lifnei Aron Hashem. So they stood it back up. Interesting, the Meforshim explain that Koach HaTuma has a lot of power at night. Doesn't have power in the daytime. That's why we worry about shadim, right? Remember, people shouldn't walk alone at night unaccompanied because of the shadim and all koach hatuma. So Hashem wanted to show dafka at night, this Dagon has no power, causing this idol to fall in front of. And remember, all of this are going to be testing the Plishtim to see Maaseh Hashem. Are they eventually going to recognize that this is Hashem that's doing this? And there is a machlokes between Rav Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Rav Yochanan or Kabdeyu. Plishtim were giving honor to the Aron. Amru Zeluka v'Zeluka. They said this is a god and this is a god. But Reish Lakish says, no. It can't be that they were, in the end, we're going to see that they were punished. So Reish Lakish says, Dagon is the victor and Aaron is the defeated. And Yavon Atzuach v'yitabed l'notzeach. So they put up the idol. Again, Dagon has been fallen forward in front of the Aron. However, in this time, Rosh Dagon, his head has been cut off. The idol's head is off. Ushte kapot yadav, the palms of his hands have been cut off. Krutut elamiftan, the threshold of this Beis Avodah Zarah. Rak Dagon nishar alav. The fish part was standing still. Now, Al Kain lo yidruchu kohanei Dagon v'chol habayim beit Dagon al miftan Dagon b'Ashdod ad hayom hazeh. In this Beis Avodah Zarah, they somehow began to worship the threshold, because it seemed like the threshold was part of this. So they never stepped on the threshold. They sort of added a new Avodah Zarah to it. Now, oh, here it is. This is from the Yalkut Shimoini. Omar Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak, Yisrael Hemu es Elohim Yoiser Me'umas Ha'olam. The Jewish people, when they worship Avodah Zarah, they're worse than the Goyim. Here, the Plishtim, when they worshipped a deity, they avoided, they gave it covet. Meaning, Bnei Yisrael, they were more sort of oduk, they were more connected to their avodah zarah than even the goyim. They made an area, you shouldn't walk here. Bnei Yisrael, Hayudogin, the Bnei Yisrael would walk when they did avodah zarah. And there's a pasuk in Sephania where they treated their avodah zarah, they would walk on it as well. Means they had no covet for anything. Klal Yisrael. Pasuk vav vatichbad yad Hashem el Ashdodim vayishimem. In Ashdod, Hashem takes his wrath on the people. Vayachotam batchorim. It's written bafoilim. It means hemorrhoids. Es Ashdod v'zgvuloseha. Rashi says, Chalchulis karkasha makasan nekev. This is a hemorrhoid, but it's even worse. Achborin nichnosim b'nikveim. Mice would crawl up into their intestines. The shoimtim b'nei me'en v'yotzim. The mice would scratch and pull out their intestines from the inside out. Terrible, terrible makkah. Vayiru anshe Ashdod kichein. And all of a sudden, the people started recognizing what's going on. Va'amru lo yeshev Aron Elokei Yisrael imanu. The Aron should not stay with us. Ki kashasayado aleinu v'al Dagon Eloheinu. It's doing damage to us and to Dagon, our idol. Vayishlechu vayasfu et kol sarnei Plishtim aleihem. They gathered the governors of Plishtim. Vayamru ma na'aseh la'aron Elohei Yisrael. And they said, what should we do with the Aron? Vayomru Gat Yisov Aron Elohei Yisrael. Let's send it to Gat. Gat is a nearby town. Vayasebu Aron Elohei Yisrael to Gat. Vayachrei Sebu Oto, after they sent the Aron to Gat. Vatihi Yad Hashem Ba'ir Mumag Dola Me'od. Again, Hashem begins to punish the people of Gat. Mikaton Vad Gadol. Vayishasru Lehem Tchorim Afulim. Again with hemorrhoids. The people of Gat understand what's going on. Pasuk Yud, Vaishalchut Aron Elohim Ekron. They send it to the third Plishtim city. It was in Ashdod, then in Gat, and now they send it to Ekron. Vayi kivu Aron Elohim Ekron, Vaizaku Ekronim lemor, Hesebu Elayat Aron Elohim Yisrael Amitenu v'tami. The Ekronites go, why are you sending the Aron here? To kill us? We need to send the Aron back to its place, meaning back to Klal Yisrael. And so it shouldn't kill us and our people. The hand of God was strong there. Those that didn't die, again, were afflicted with hemorrhoids. Vatal Shavata Ira Shamayim. And the pain, it's not like they davened, the pain and the destruction went all the way up to heaven. Now remember, it was already predicted because the Plishtim were very By the way, we're going to see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to have akpad against Klal Yisrael. He's going to be upset with Klal Yisrael, as we will see. Why? It doesn't seem like Klal Yisrael were very disturbed that the Aron had been taken captive by. Why was there no rescue force sent into Plishtim to take the Aron? And that's why those Meforshim bring the story about how Klal Yisrael, they also, when they worshiped Avodah Zarah, they did similar things. There's a lot of similarities the Meforshim bring between the Makos that were brought onto Mitzrayim during Yetzias Mitzrayim to these Makos. But it seems like the Plishtim recognized earlier than Paro did that eventually all of this was coming from Yad Hashem. And the Plishtim eventually recognized it. But I wanted to bring we had learned a pasuk a few weeks ago that the Plishtim sort of made choizik. They made fun of the koyach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we read a chazal that, you don't think that the Kadosh Baruch Hu has koach. He struck them with greater and more unusual punishments than we had seen anywhere else. This is a very unusual type of punishment that was given to Plishtim then. Any comments or questions so far on Perek Hey? Let's go to Perek Vav. Vahi Aron Hashem b'stei Plishtim shiva chadoshim. The Aron stayed in the Plishtim for 7 months. Now you notice it says Sedeh. They thought, maybe all of these inflictions, etc., has to do with the fact that it's in the city. So let's move the Aron to a field. But it didn't stop anything. And that's where they saw even further that this is all Yad Hashem. Now, what is this 7 months business? Chazal don't see that as a coincidence. Breishis Rabba. Vahi Aron Hashem b'stei plishtim shiva chadoshim. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Avram. Ata natata lavi melech plishtim. Be'et shekarati mo brit b'ver shava. Zayin kvasot b'li ritzoni. In the parsha that we lane on Rosh Hashanah, V'Hashem Pokada Sarah, the end of that parsha is a bris that Avram makes with Avimelech, the king of Plishtim. And he gives him 7 sheep. But where do we see that Avram was told to give him 7 sheep? Kadosh Baruch Hu seems to not to have been happy about that. Keneged Cain, Aroni Chozer B'Sdei Plishtim Zayin Chadoshim. I'm going to arrange for my Aron to be in Plishtim for 7 months. Hadahu Dechsiv in Tehillim, Vayitein L'Shvi Uzo. My oaths, my strength was sent prisoner. Ze Aron Abris. V'tifarto Biad Sar, Elu Bigdei Kahuna. Because the Plishtim also, when they killed Chofni and Pinchas, they took the Bigdei Kahuna. So the Bigdei Kahuna were also taken prisoner. And it's called Tifarto because it says Vasita Bigdei Kodesh Laron Ul Tiferes. And the Musar Navim explains Ki Kisheregu Chofni and Pinchas Lakwa Plishtim Alem, it's Bigdei Kahuna. Now, do we understand how is Avram Avinu, how did he sin by this? Mashachot Avram Avinu b'zeh, zeu mishum da Plishtim and Gamke min Aknanim. The Plishtim are really from the Canaanite nation, Kidchsiv and Yoshua. Min hasichor asher al pnei Mitzrayim, ve'al Ekron tzafona leknani techashev. So the area of Ekron is considered like a Canaanite area. V'harei ksiv, it says in Shmos Chav Gimel, Lo sichros lahem v'lelahem bris. With the 7 nations of the Canaanim, you're not allowed to make a bris with them. Remember, you're supposed to kill them all out. Remember, Avram Avinu is supposedly to have kept all Tariq mitzvahs before the Torah was given. Well, one of the mitzvahs is not to make a bris with the Canaanim. The Afa Gav decreases a bris, Bikesh Avimelech. The bris was really wanted by Abimelech. It's not like Avram Avinu came to Abimelech and wanted a bris. Abimelech came to Avram wanting a bris. When someone comes to you with peace, don't turn him away with both hands. Avram Avinu was living under the yoke of the Plishtim there as well. He was like a ger there. Still on the level of Avram Avinu, he should have asked Hashem, or not. So it's an interesting aura regarding the 7 months business.
Ernie, I see another interesting midrash on the on Avraham's sin with handing the 7 sheep to Avimelech, and it's an alternate midrash that says 7 righteous men would die at the hands of the Pelishtim, including Shimshon, Chafni, Pinchas, Shaul, and Shaul's 3 sons.
So that's Keneged the Zion Kvasim.
Yes.
That's Keneged the Zion Kvasim. Okay, very good.
What's the sign?
No, remember Avram Avinu gave 7 sheep to Avimelech. He is part of this bris. And the way we just learned now, he wasn't supposed to do that because we're not allowed to make covenants with the Canaanite people. And the Plishtim were Canaanite people. And even though this is before the Torah was given, in some ways, at least mystically, Avram Avinu has kept all of the mitzvahs of the Torah even before they were given.
Can I ask a question? When they sent it from Ashdod to Gat and then Gat to Ekron, so did this Magefa stop in each place that they sent it out of, or this, no, it continued
No,
anyway?
continued in all the places for the whole 7 months. And that's, I want to read the Eliyahu Rabbah. But where I said, Kivan Sharoa Plishtim Midoso Shalo Aron Shemaka Yoshvei Ha'ir, every city they brought it to, it was destroying the city. So what did they do? Holichu Basadeh. They took it out in the field. Shenamar, like it says here, Vayaron Hashem Bizdeh Plishtim Shiva Chadoshim. Va'af Sham Haisa Maka Rabba Bahem. Shenamar Vaikru Plishtim LaKohanim LaKosmim. We're going to see soon, even though they put it out in the field, it was still causing damage everywhere, like Suzanne just asked. So, Vaikru Plishtim LaKohanim LaKosmim Lemor. They have their own spiritual leaders and that's what's referred to as their Kohanim and their Koismim. Mana sel Aron Hashem. What should we do with the Aron? Hodiunu, tell us. Bamet nishalchenu l'mekot. We want to send it back, but here the Plishtim are now treating it with a lot of kavod. They now want to make sure that the Aron, if they're going to send it back, how should we send it back so that it's done in a kavodic way? That's how the Meforshim see what's going on here. Vayomru, so these spiritual leaders said, "Im mishalchim et Aron el Israel, al tishalchu oto rekam." Don't send it back empty-handed. You need to send gifts. Ki hashev tashivu lo asham, like a guilt offering. We need to send back a gift. Az terafu, and then there'll be a healing. V'nodalachem lama lo tasu yado mikem. Vayomru, so they asked, Ma asham asher nashivo. So what gift should we send back? Vayomru, mispar sarnei plishtim. We have 5 governors in Plishtim. So let us send back chamishat chorei zahav. They made hemorrhoids made out of gold. But it's supposed to show the power of Hashem, that this is how we were afflicted. The chamisha achborei zahav, 5 mice made out of gold. Because remember, we said the mice, that's how Rashi learned Pshat, that the mice went up their intestines and caused damage there as well.
Where do you see, Ernie, where do you see a Kri and a Ksiv so different?
Yeah.
When you say Chamishat Chorei,
We have
That's
it.
the-
Yeah.
that's the
We have-
Kri.
By the way, we have it by the Tochacha, where it says Yishkavena. It's supposed to say
Yeah,
Yishgalena.
Yishgalena, right, okay. that's one
Yishgalena,
letter.
Yishkavena.
Yeah, but here's 2 different words. It's Techorei and
Bapoilim. Bapoilim.
Afole.
Apolim.
But, and in Megillus Rus, you have whole words that don't appear at all.
Right.
That's true, also, right?
So again,
I
I
don't
think
know what
I think it's a Lashon.
is.
I think it's a
Johnny?
Lashon Nakiya. I think apoilim is a lower word. So again, the Torah wants to be more naki.
Johnny just sent us a picture of the Dogon. Do you have a picture of the golden hemorrhoids?
Where he sent it on the
On the
WhatsApp.
text? Yeah.
WhatsApp. Hang on.
Sorry, I can't find that one.
Yeah, you sent it. Yeah. You see that?
Yeah,
3 blind mice.
Thank you, Johnny.
and how about the hemorrhoid?
We'll see. By the way, we're going to see these gifts. These gifts were maintained in a very holy place in the Beis Hamikdash.
I know.
And by the way, they were when Shlomo HaMelech, when Yoshio HaMelech buries the Aron, they bury these gifts as well. That we're going to see before the Churban. Yoshio HaMelech, according to one pshat, there's a machlokes. According to one pshat, there was no Aron in Bayis Sheni because Yoshio HaMelech was goinez it, hid it, buried it. And one of the things they buried was the Tzinsenes Hamon, right? Remember when the Mon fell, Aaron HaKohen was told, take up some Mon and put it like in a canister. That was also kept. And also we'll see these gifts eventually. We'll get to that.
Is there an explanation about these gifts or not?
Yeah. Well, I just said the
Yeah,
gift.
No,
Yeah,
but it's,
but-
I think, is
Right,
that
right.
my question, is there a mida connected mida for this very bizarre,
Sorry.
to put it mildly?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously Mida Kenega Mida
Maybe
because
so.
that's what happened to them.
Well, remember, I'm gonna read we had a medrash that talked about the lack of cover that the Plishtim had to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he said he's gonna do something that has never been done before. And by the way, the Radak,
Maria
the
just.
Radak says very clearly that that means they had the hemorrhoids and the mice, and the governors had them, and the people had them. So that's why the Koisman and the Kohanim told them, make it b'dmusat choyrim chamisha u'b'dmusat achborim chamisha. Ki
By the way,
mispar
Maria
achborim.
just.
So it was, at least the gifts were made to recognize the koach of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did to them.
Mario just sent pictures. Check Google out on the golden mice and the golden hemorrhoids. You can frame them, Ernie, by you in the office, maybe.
Listen to this. In Baba Basra, Yud Dalid, Argaz sheshigru bo plishtim doron elokei Israel, munach mitzido shel Aaron b'kodesh HaKadoshim.
Right, that's what it says.
That means eventually we're going to see later on in this perek that these presents were put into an argaz, into like a box. And the Oren Baba Basra tells us that this box was placed in the Aron HaKodesh next to the Kodesh Kodoshim. Shenemar v'klei hazahav asher shafasem lo asham tasimu bargaz mitzido v'shilachtem osavalach.
So what happened? The Kohen Gadol took them in on Yom Kippur. How did they get them there?
No, they were there. They were placed there. Arei the otor gaz sheshalchu plishtim deron lokei Israel hinichu bnei Israel beveis Kodesh HaKadoshim lemishmeres liot sham im Aron HaKodesh v'masefer HaTorah shekosav Moshe Rabbeinu. The etma'ah ma chashiv osah sheyeh makom b'makom mekudosh kol kach. How can it be? What is this thing doing there with the Aron HaKodesh? Then it says in Yuma,
I'm gonna have a shout too, Tanya.
Yuma Nun Beis,
Yeah, honey.
Mishanignas Aron, Nignaza Emots and Senes Amon, like I said, the canister of the Mon was buried with the Aron. Utzluchi Shemen HaMishcha, the oil that was used to anoint all the Kelim of Beis HaMikdash was also buried. By the way, there's one pshat that was the Pach HaShemen that was found later on in the Hanukkah story. And therefore, that's the Shemen HaMishcha. We have in the Gemara that it was never used. It was miracle oil. Why was it miracle oil? Because Moshe Rabbeinu had to be nimshach with it, and Aaron HaKohen, and every coin gadol for every 18 coin gadol's for the future, and all the kalim. And when they measured it, it never got less volume. So what does that sound like? It sounds like the Nes Chanukah. That remember they put volume in and it burned for 8 days. That's one. Not everybody holds of that, because many hold that none of this was ever discovered yet. But there's one pshat that says the Pach Hashem that was discovered in Chanukah is this Shluchis Shemen HaMishcha. Umaklo shel Aaron u'shkedeo prachea. In the battle between Aaron and Korach, right? Aaron was told to take his staff and put it in the Mishkan, and then overnight it grew shkedim, almonds. Va'argash sheshigru plishtim doron lokei Israel. And all of these were nignaz for the future, for our future. All of these things are supposed to be found when Mashiach comes, and we're going to dig all this up. We don't know where they are right now, but they'll be found. And we are going to have all these things back again. Who umi gonzu freit the Gemara? Yoshio gonzu. The chol zeton beer. What is so choshev about this doron that it had to be put in the Kodesh Kodoshim? why did the Plishtim also think that, remember, they wanted kapara. It said in the pasuk here as an osham. Why did they think that something that looks like a hemorrhoid and a mouse is going to be that's going to lead to kapara?
Ernie Maria sent a beautiful picture of those things.
On your phone.
I've been telling you that. You would want to frame it also.
See what-
I've never seen a hemorrhoid that looks like that. Have you, Walter?
I don't usually look at hemorrhoids, Sydney. I'm not a chief.
Okay, so listen to what Rav Shimon Schwab, Zichrono Tzadik Livrocha, said in his Sefer Iyun Tefillah. Right, Rav Schwab was the more the Asra of the Kehila of the Yekis in Washington Heights. The Al Yedei Makah Hikiru Sarnei HaPlishtim Shekan Guf Bori. The governors of Plishtim understood that a healthy body, Hapoel Karaui, Eino Ki Imnes Tmidi Mi'es Hashem, Hamachzik Neshama B'toch HaGuf. That this was a realization that we walk around every day, it's the biggest nace of all. It's a constant nace that a Kadosh Baruch Hu can have life and breath in Tachaguf. A goof is a physical thing and the Neshama is something spiritual. How do you keep these two together? The Dafka b'matona kazu, Heru Goydel Niflot Boris Barach. They showed the wonders of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The body is a disgusting thing, and the neshama is a holy thing, and yet HaKadosh Baruch Hu fuses them. The gamoit sasa psoilis, even something as mundane as the excretory system, which is being demonstrated here by hemorrhoids. This is all b'hashgachaso yizbarach. Rav Schwab, who lived in the modern world, understood modern medicine, what modern science was revealing about the complexities of physiology, etc. This is a wondrous thing that was being shown by the Plishtim. Lachen gam latid lavo, kishiachzor ha'aron limkomo, when the Aron is going to go back to its place. Yachzor gam argaz sheshalchu Plishtim and abtchorim shegam az nodel HaKadosh Baruch Hu shemafli lasot. That's why the bracha of Asher Yotzar, when we say mafli lasot, that's where the combination of ruach and neshama with the goof is a tremendous thing. So important that it's kept in the Aron HaKodesh.
What about the mice?
Well, the mice are part of the. Remember, Rashi explained the mice
They're part of the.
went up the hemorrhoids.
I see.
The
They come
hemorrhoids
together.
was like an entrance into the intestinal tract,
They come together. I see.
and they go together. Yes. Let's go weiter.
It just reminded me, it's almost reminded me of, in a certain way, like a parallel to the idea that Purim is always going to be, even when the future Geula is going to outshine Pesach. So we'll talk about the future in the future, about how Hashem was the Geula Shalema, but Purim is always going to be, because Purim is this same thing that Hashem is always there, even in the most mundane and
In Teva.
And
Yeah.
so this, in a certain way, it's like I had once heard a shir from Rabbi Kupfer many years ago, that the Megillas Esther is actually the whole entire Torah in a more Megusham thing. Like the Torah starts out black fire and white fire, as it comes down through the wherevers and lands where we have it ink on a cloth. But it even more Megusham is Megillas Esther. I don't remember how, obviously, but I remember being very like, wow, about that idea that in the lowest form of Gashmias is the whole Torah in the Megillas Esther. And in a certain way, this is like sort of in that category. It doesn't get much lower than
Yeah.
this sort of thing.
No, I like it
But in a way,
because
it has a nitzchias here that you're describing, which is frankly, like very difficult to wrap your mind around.
right. I like what you said, because we just read that this argaz is going to be for the future.
Right.
Because and Purim remains the same way. It's also got the same nitzchias. Absolutely. Let's go a few more psukim. We're not going to finish Perek Vav today, but let's go a little further. Vasitem salmet chorechem. You will make like an eye, like a tselem of these hemorrhoids. Vitsalmeach b'reim, like the pictures Mario sent, the images of the mice. Hamashchitim et haaretz untatem lo ke'Yisrael kavod. It will be given as a kavod. Ulai yakel et yadom aleichem. Through this offering, Hashem will lighten His hand. Umeal Elohechem, and on your dagon, umeal artzachem. V'lama techabdu et levavchem. Don't harden your heart like the Mitzrim did. Kasher kibdu Mitzrayim ufaru et libam. Recognize that this is Yad Hashem. Halo kasher talel b'hem v'yishalchu v'yelech. When send it.
Ernie, is he speaking to the Pelishtim or is he speaking to Bnei Israel here?
No, he's speaking to the Pelishtim. Remember, the Pelishtim went to their spiritual guides, and this is the spiritual guides talking to them.
Okay.
The spiritual guys, where did they come up with this whole? It must say, in other words, that this would be make HaKadosh Baruch Hu give up doing this. I mean, it's just strange.
Well, they're sending Aaron back, and rather than send it back by itself, they decided to send a gift, like an usher.
That gift's like a pestle. You go make a graven image of a mouse. It's like strange. And where did they come up and think that basically this will be the mechaper for them?
Well, we read the Shimon Shlomo.
I understand. I understand.
But it's hard to understand. I understand. I'm with you.
I hear what he says, but where did he get it from? In other words, where did they get it from? Not Shrim's. I understand where he's coming from, but where did the people, the spiritual guys or whoever they were, where did they get that?
No, because what they did is this is how they were punished. So they fashioned what they were punished with, and they said this happened Yad Hashem, and they recognized God through this action.
That's what I think also, especially because he's saying, don't be like Paro. Because Paro kept saying, God, what God, who God? So
Exactly.
just say now, this is God.
Absolutely.
Save yourself more problems.
So therefore you have to make a golden image. That's the strange part. That they recognize God, I understand.
Remember, Walter,
they weren't going to send
the Plishtim were Avodah Zarah nicks. They're not Jews. They have Dagon. They have their Elilim, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed that the Dagon has no power. They fell down 3 times. They cut his head off, etc. The Plishtim initially did not want to see the Yad Hashem, but eventually, after the 3 cities and everything was going on, they did recognize it. The Mitzrayim saw it 10 times and never recognized it. Paro still gathered the nation and chased after them to the Yam Suf until they were swallowed up there. So that they never recognized the Yad Hashem. So the atat, this is still the advice of the spiritual leaders. Kechu v'asu agalah chadasha echad. Make a new wagon. Ushtei parot alot. Take 2 female cows, asher lo alaleim ol, that never had done any work done, v'asartem et haparot bagalah, and they will tie them up in front of the wagon, v'ashivotem bnei machrem abaita, and their calves that are still suckling from them, send them home. Now, that's not natural that a mother cow, if her calves have been sent home, so she's naturally going to go to the calves. But they're setting this up because they want to see, mamish, that this is the Yad Hashem. And if these mother cows are going to go back to Eretz Yisrael, to the Jews, that's a further simon. Number 2, the fact that they were beasts of burden that have never done beasts of burden, yet they know how to pull a wagon. These were all simonim that the Kosmin and the Kohanim were going to use to again prove to themselves, oh yeah, this is Yad Hashem.
Is it possible that these soothsayers for the Pelishtim were able to see the Nevuah, something God put in their mind what they should do? Because I mean, we're talking about multiple steps that they did all correctly to please God to end the Magefa.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't say that they were given any. This was something that they learned Mussar from themselves. They don't, and they learned it from. They understood what was going on with Egypt.
I was thinking.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was thinking. They obviously knew about what happened with the golden calf, and that came about. Also, like it was a nest. So in a way, maybe I don't know. They knew that what happened to them was also a miracle, and they're fashioning the miracle in a golden object. You know, something, I don't know, some relationship maybe to the golden calf, what they knew about.
Okay, I don't see it. It's an idea. I don't see any of the Meforshim mentioning that specifically, but they certainly knew the history of the Egyptians. That was well known among the whole Middle East in terms of what had happened to them. Now they're not finished with their advice. Ulekachtem et Aron Hashem untatem oto lagala. Take the Aron, put it on the wagon. And these golden things that you built, put them on it. Bargaz mitzido. Put it in a box next to the Aron. Vishilachtem oto valach. And then they tell them this is a test. Uri'item. Im derech gvulo yale Beit Shemesh. Beit Shemesh is the closest city to where the Plishtim were. If it goes straight to Beit Shemesh, hu asalanu tarag dolozot. Then we know it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu who afflicted us. The imlo, and if it doesn't go, the cows don't walk there. V'yadanu ki lo yadonagavanu. Maybe Hashem was not the one who did this to us. Mikrehu hayalanu, and it's not hashgacha, but mikre. Mikre, the concept of random chance.
Coincidence.
Vayasu anashim came. Vaychushte parot alot vayasrum bagala. They tied them to the wagon. Vetpneim kaluba bayit. They sent the children home, like we said, so that there'd be a tension. The mothers would want to go there, so it's even further proof that if they go to Beit Shemesh, it's all biyad Hashem. Vayasimu etaron Hashem al agala. Vetar gaz vetachporei hazahav vetzalmei tchoreim. They did everything that the Kosmin told them to do. Now comes a very famous pasuk.
Very famous.
Vayishar na poros baderech. The poros, either it says here they sang, or they went straight from the concept of Yoshor. Al derech Beit Shemesh b'Mesila on the road. Achat alchu aloch v'ga'o, and they sang. Ga'o means they load. Load is that the word? Yeah, the mooing, but in a certain way with a guttural sound towards their children. Yet they didn't go right or left. V'sarnei plishtim holchim achreim ad gvul Beit Shemesh. The governors were tracking them to see what had happened here. Now.
So wait a second. They were going back to the Plishtim?
No. Beit Shemesh is a Jewish city.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's the closest Jewish city to the Plishtim area.
So if they're going straight there, it's we see from Hashem that they're going to take him back.
Remember, the mother cows should be going towards where their children are.
Right, that's one. Right.
Number two, they've never schlepped before. These are not schlepping cows. How can they schlep?
Right.
Number three.
All of these were simonim that this is coming from Yad Hashem.
Another reason is going to Beit Shemesh is uphill. Why would the cows work hard to get?
There you go. So I'm going to leave us here. And we have a lot to discuss next week to finish Perek Vav in terms of the shira of these cows and what happens to the people of Beit Shemesh when they receive the Aron. Do they receive it properly? Do they not receive it properly? And what else happens to the Aron? We had some great comments tonight, great discussions. This is the way it should be every week, God willing. Any other comments that anybody wants to make?
Well, this whole scenario turns into a huge Kiddush Hashem in this regard, this miracle right here.
It's gonna turn into Kiddush Hashem, but how the Jewish people in Beit Shemesh respond to it may be lacking. We'll see.
Well, that's
right now-
our next problem. However, the fact that this huge nace happened is
is a Kiddush Hashem.
yeah.
And what does it mean, the whole concept of Shira? And can the sun say Shira? Can inanimate objects say Shira? Or is this something to do like when Bilam's Oson starts to speak? And we'll go into that. There's some we're gonna.
Also, these are two famous cows too, right?
Well, are these the ones Eliyahu and the Carmels?
Right, yeah, by Eliyahu too. Yeah, these are the same ones.
Okay. Well, let's leave some of this for next week.
Thank
Okay,
you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
Okay,
Good luck, everybody.
Bye.